Comfort us in our wilderness. Comfort us as we struggle to care for one another. Comfort us in our wilderness. Comfort us as we struggle in this world. Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami Yomar Elohechem. Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami Yomar Elohechem. Comfort us in our wilderness. Comfort us as we struggle to care for one another. Comfort us in our wilderness. Comfort us as we struggle in this world. Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami Yomar Elohechem. Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami Yomar Elohechem.
We will now bring in the light and comfort of Shabbat with the light of our Shabbat candles. I would love to invite forward the Aaronsons to help us kindle our Shabbat candles this evening. We also have a table over here with many tea lights. If you would like to kindle your own Shabbat candles, please feel free to do so there at the table.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kirishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
On page 1 of our prayer books, page 1, Yedid Nefesh, beloved of my soul. We call God beloved, close to us, caring about us.
Nefesh av harachaman, Yedid nefesh av harachaman, Yeshochavecha el retzonecha, Yeshochavecha Yelalai el retzonecha.
page 9. Page 9 toward the top of the page. The final 2 lines of that top section. Adonai oz lamo yitain. Adonai yavarech et amo vashalom. God will give strength to all people. May God bless our people, all people, with peace. Beginning on page 10, we find the words of Lecha Dodi, welcoming in Shabbat with joy and gladness. We are going to sing together the verses with asterisks. And on the final verse, verse 9, we will rise as we are able and face the entrance, symbolically welcoming the presence of Shabbat.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nikabela. 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 Shamor v'zachor v'dibur echad ishmi'anu el hamiuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad v'shemot tiferet v'litila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nikabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha ki mekor habracha mirosh mikadem nesucha sof ma'aseh b'machshava tehila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala פני שבת נקבלה. מקדש מלך עיר מלוכה, ומציא מתוך ההפכה, רב לך שבת בימי קבחה, ויחמול עלייך חמלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי, 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 שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהולה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה,
We can be seated on page 14. Page 14, where you see the asterisk, Tzaddik Katamar. The righteous shall flourish like palms, grow tall as cedars in Lebanon.
Tzaddik Katamar yifrach, ke'erez b'Lebanon yizkeh, shetulim beveit Adonai.
On page 15, I invite you to rise as you are able as we continue with Chatzi Kaddish, followed by Baruch Hu.
Yizgadal ve'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malachutei, b'chayechon v'yomechon, uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, Bagala, Bagala, uvizman karivi meru. Yehi shemei Rabbah mevarach, le'alam u'l'alamei alamaya. Yitbarach ve'yishtabach, ve'yitpa'ar v'yitromam ve'yitnasei, ve'yitadar v'yitaleh ve'yitalal, shemei dekudsha. Richu lahel min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran be'alma v'imeru. Baruch hu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam va'ed. Umavir yom, umevi laila. Umavdil ben yom, uvein laila Adonai, tzvahot shemo. Elechai v'kayam. Tamid yumloch aleinu leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, amari v'aravim. Ahavat olam beit Yisrael. Ki hemechayenu ve'orech yameinu uvahem nehege yomam v'layla ve'ahavatecha al tasir mimenu leolamim baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam.
We can be seated. Page 18.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom alevavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha uv'kshartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uv'isharecha. Lema'an tizkiru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'hitem kedoshim le'elohechem Ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim lihyot lachem le'elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem emet.
By Alden Salovey, an Israeli poet and liturgist, probably my favorite current poet and liturgist. Exodus again and again. My father was a wandering Aramaean, my mother a wandering Jew, sent on a journey home, the journey to a promised land. His children's children were slaves, and their children's children refugees. History set in the journey from slavery to freedom, a march repeated throughout the ages. The temple fell. It fell twice. Our nation dispersed, yet we did not forget. We have risen again and again to dream of Jerusalem, to yearn for Zion, to pray for redemption in our own land. My mother was expelled. My father was pursued, my children hunted, generations lost to fire and knife. We are a tide of survival, surging and receding, returning to our people, returning to our God, returning once again to our land. Page 21, Micha Mocha.
Yai, lai, yai, lai, lai, lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, yai, lai, lai, lai. Yai, yai, lai, lai, lai. Micha mocha, Elim Adonai. Micha mocha, Nedar v'kodesh nora. Tehilot, Osei, Feleh, Nora. Tehilot, Osei, Feleh. Malchutecha v'rahu panecha bokei hayam lifnei Moshe Miriam. Zeili, Zeili, Anu ve'ameru. Adonai, Imloch, Leolam va'ed. Adonai, Imloch, Leolam va'ed. ונאמר כי פרענו את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני קהל ישראל. My family was just blessed to spend 2 weeks at Camp Newman, a URJ camp in Northern California, similar to Goldman Union Camp, where Scott Siegel got to be on faculty and his kids got to attend camp. Camp Newman, it was our 6th summer on faculty. 2 summers we spent in 16 and 17 meeting Israelis that came for a summer to learn what American Judaism is like, being present with song leaders and giving them space to discover and learning from them the songs and Jewish music that nourishes them. Being the old people at camp. Even when we were in our 30s, we were the old people at camp. In our late 20s, we were the old people at camp. But being able to be there and be mentors for the counselors, and they sought us out and said, "Tell me what it's like to be a cantor. What, do you think being a rabbi would be a good thing to do with my life?" And sitting and having coffee. And
It is.
And it is. and what a gift that was. And then a fire came in 2017, and that camp burned down. And it was awful. And we went off-site for 2 summers, made the most of it. Fundraising began, plans began, and then COVID. And we lost camp in a whole different way. We were back 2 summers ago on faculty, back at the original site that had been in the process of being rebuilt. Last summer we didn't go to camp because we led a trip to Israel with many folks, some who are in this room right now, with Amanda Campbell, our Director of Education, deeply meaningful. And this summer, it felt like camp was back. The facility is incredible. The smiles are infectious. And my kids, for the first time, all 3 of them were campers in cabins. Let me tell you, there's nothing like seeing your kid as they walk down the hill to breakfast saying, "So that's what they chose to wear today." and just the surprises, really, in a good way, interesting and wonderful. And this summer was also different as we had deep and interesting conversations with the Israelis who had just finished the army service a couple of months ago and had their own ideas about what was happening in Israel. And yet, there were still the smiles. There were still the counselors that sought out conversations with us. Malka taught art. and volunteered here and there when they needed an extra hand. And we ended each day with this Hashkivenu. As we get ready, campers sitting in circles, counselors looking at them as maybe someday they'll look at their own children as parents. And every time we sing it, I am brought back to Camp Newman in Northern California. And I'm nourished by that. And when I'm at camp, I miss Temple Chai, and I'm nourished by your voices. And I say, wow, I wish everyone could hear how it sounds in the small sanctuary. So let us sing Hashkivenu. And imagine a fond memory from when you were growing up, maybe, and a time when you felt loved and safe. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, l'shalom. V'ha'amidenu malkeinu l'chaim. Ufros aleinu sukat shlom lecha, ufros aleinu sukat shlom lecha.
Bottom of 22.
Shelter us beneath thy wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right. Amen. Amen. Amen.
On the top of page 23, we will continue with Vishamru, celebrating the connection between the people of Israel and God through the covenant of Shabbat. After that, we will continue in silent prayer, our silent Amidah. I invite you to rise as you are able.
V'shameru v'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat, la'asot et HaShabbat l'dorotam berit olam, berit olam. Beini uvein bnei Yisrael, oti oti leolam. Beini uvein bnei Yisrael, oti oti leolam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim v'et haaretz, uvayom hashvi'i Shabbat, Shabbat vayinafash. comfort us. Comfort us in our wilderness. Comfort us as we struggle to care for one another. Comfort us in our wilderness. Comfort us as we struggle in this world. Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami Yomar Elohechem. Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami Yomar Elohechem.
At this time in our service, we have the opportunity to call into our hearts all those in need of healing. Healing of mind, of body, of spirit. I invite you, if you've joined us streaming online, to share the names of those for whom you are praying in the chat or in the comments so we can include them in our own prayers. And present together in the room, I invite you to share the names of those for whom you are praying as I look around the room. The Mishaberach can be found on the top of the back of your handout.
Mishaberach Avotenu Avraham Yitzchak Be'Yaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel V'Leah Hu Yevarech Yirapeh Et HaCholim Mishaberach Avotenu Avraham Yitzchak Ve'Yaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel V'Leah Hu Yevarech Yirapeh Et HaCholim El na refan Allah El na refan Allah El na refan Allah El na refan Allah Mishaberach Avotenu Avraham Yitzchak Ve'Yaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel V'Leah Hu Yevarech V'Yirapeh Et HaCholim.
18 years ago, on Tisha B'Av, I joined with Women of the Wall, the interdenominational prayer group in Israel working to gain women equal access to the Western Wall and other prayer holy sites. I joined with them and participated in chanting a portion of Echav, Lamentations, there at the Western Wall. And instead of being shouted at and spat upon and having things thrown at us like the other times I had gathered with them, in this moment, people of all stripes, even ultra-Orthodox women, sat with us, joining us, chanting and weeping. It was the first time I really got Tisha B'Av. There, with the ancient wall and those ancient words present in the emotion of the moment, I could feel deep within myself the weight of what was lost in this central place of joyous ingathering when it was destroyed, leaving behind only the outer courtyard wall of the whole complex. It was a moment of mourning, but I also found comfort in the unity I felt with everyone around me and with all of the Israelis and others present there at the wall. This week, I've been thinking back to that particularly meaningful Tisha B'Av, as we've been witnessing and hearing of the events in the state of Israel that have been building for months and have intensified, to say the least, this week, as protests have grown in vehemence and strength. And as you likely know, on Monday, despite outcry from the majority of Israel's citizens, despite international outcry, the Israeli government nonetheless passed the first major law in their so-called judicial reform. The law undercuts the authority of the Israeli Supreme Court. I'm sure, like me, that many of you have been carefully listening to the news, talking to Israeli friends or family members, but I want to be sure that we all have a basic understanding of what's at play. Israel's government is composed of two branches. The prime minister is the leader of the majority coalition in the Knesset, the parliament. So essentially, the executive and legislative are one branch of government, and then you have the court system and the Supreme Court. Importantly, in Israel, there is no constitution or Bill of Rights as such, but rather a set of basic laws that's far from comprehensive. And there's a long-standing judicial principle called the reasonableness or the reasonableness clause that the Supreme Court has been able to utilize as the basis for making rulings that overturn laws it deems illegal or unjust or that endanger human rights and freedoms, both generally and also particularly for vulnerable populations. The law that was just passed gives the legislature the power to use a simple majority to overrule a Supreme Court ruling that overturned one of its own laws on the basis of reasonableness. Imagine if Congress could use a simple majority to overrule Brown versus the Board of Education or Obergefell or so many other rulings. It's important to note that Israel's governmental system is absolutely flawed and needs a great deal of work and change, and theoretically, the court might have too much power. We could argue in an abstract way and have a very interesting discussion over what should exist compared to what does. But in this moment, this is being pushed through by the most radically right-wing, ultra-Orthodox and ultra-Orthodox influenced coalition that holds the Knesset with an incredibly thin majority after 4 years of elections that failed to create functioning coalitions. It's clear that so very much is at stake, and the living out of our Jewish values and our particular way of doing Jewish and living our Judaism could be likely to be threatened on the basis of this law. Without appropriate checks and balances from the Supreme Court, laws diminishing the rights and legal protections of women, the LGBTQIA+ community, people of color, the poor, the disadvantaged, not to mention the ways that this government is likely to choose then to fund and expand the ultra-Orthodox hegemony, and on and on. Everything is at stake. And the Knesset passed it anyway, against the will of the people and against the will of what seems to be, though we Jews are very good at disagreeing with each other, the will of the Jewish people around the world. A majority, a majority of the Jewish people. There is so much I could say in this moment, so many drashot I could give, rabbis all over the world are giving. And I'll share that I am feeling kind of heartbroken over it and angry and concerned, but I'm not despairing. Recently, in an online Reform Rabbinic space that includes colleagues from around the world, including Israel, earlier this week, and on Monday, I believe, my American colleague, Joseph Mesler, asked our Israeli colleagues who are truly on the front lines of the protests and the struggle going on in Israel at this moment, what they would like us, would like American Reform rabbis to share with our congregations this Shabbat as we grapple with the events in our beloved homeland. In that spirit this evening, I want to share with you words from my Israeli colleagues that they want you to hear. These powerful, wise, brave, groundbreaking Israeli rabbis. Their words, their presence, help me not to despair. They give me hope, and they're giving me a modicum of comfort on this Shabbat Nachamu, this Shabbat of comfort. Rabbi Alona Litzitza said, please share that we have so much educational work to do, and we need true partners. A rabbinic friend of mine, Rabbi Chaim Shalom, said, I want you to talk about hope. I want you to talk about love. I want you to talk about how hard it is to see a country one loves choose a dangerous path of self-harm. I want you to make clear that democracy is not just the tiny, thin majority enforcing its will on the minority, and that's true no matter where you are. There are universal moral truths that we can't turn our backs on. This is the message of this week's Parsha. The coming together of Aseret HaDibrot, the Ten Commandments, as a symbol of the most fundamental moral truths, and our credo of Shema Yisrael, a statement spoken to the particular Yisrael, but focused on the universal, Echad, one. We turn to each other as fellow members of the people of Israel to remind each other of the oneness of creation. We are all in this together. Whenever one part of the human family falls, it affects us all. And so, yes, we all have a piece in this tragic outcome, but not equally. The people who will suffer most are those who are already the weakest. Palestinians, LGBTQ Israelis, women, the poor, the disadvantaged. These are the people who have lost their protection today. Democracy is not just by the people and of the people, it must also be for the people, all of the people. But this is not the end. By the time Shabbat comes around, we will be on the other side of Tisha B'Av, and while that's a day of mourning, it's also a testament to our resilience, to our tenacity, and our ability to continue to survive and adapt. We shall overcome because we have hope, because we have love. Thank you for loving us. We love you, and we won't stop fighting for this country. Rabbi Rifat Zafania said, as you know, our country is burning. It is sad and a difficult afternoon, that afternoon Monday here. And she said, soon I'm on my way to Kaplan again, the main drag in Tel Aviv of the protests. Yet the protest brought many indifferent people out of the house to show how important this country is to them and how unwilling they are to give up democracy, civil rights, and matters of religion and state. We really hope that this protest will also lead people to choose by their feet and join the liberal movements like the Reform movement. We have a lot of work to do in all fields, and the road is long. Hatikva bat shnot alpayim, the hope 2,000 years old. And it does not end with one decision or another. There is a large movement of protest here, and alongside it, a large movement of people who want to continue holding hands, despite all the differences. We as the Reform movement and communities are here to hold on to hope, even when darkness seems to be falling. Rabbi Lior Ezrachi Vered said that as hard as this is to see and watch from afar, and the reality is certainly very concerning, there are also huge waves of people working for a better Israel. And this is not the end, but a pit that we can climb out of, like Joseph. The rabbis and members of the Reform movement in Israel are our frontline activists. And that, like all those who are struggling, please say we need friendship and solidarity more than ever. And finally, Rabbi Stacy Blank said, I want you to share, do not despair. Continue to educate yourselves and your communities about the issues on both sides. Be leaders in dialogue. Delve into Kol Yisrael Arevim Zelazeh. All Israel is responsible for one another. Talk about the dangers of sinat chinam, baseless hatred. Every single person is important to the success of Israel, both those of us who live here and those of us who live elsewhere. Odo abda tikvatenu. We have not abandoned our hope. Lihiot am chofshi ba'artzenu, to be a free people, to live as a free people in our own land. How lucky are we? How lucky are we? This is my voice. To have such wisdom in our leaders in Israel. On this Shabbat Nachamu, the leadership and words of these powerful activist rabbis are giving me strength. Their light is our light. Their cause is not only our cause, but the cause of the entire Jewish people and the state of Israel and all who live there. And like I shared upon my return from Israel after the CCR convention this spring, Israel needs us, has never needed us more. This is a time not to step back, but to dig in, to learn more, to travel to Israel. And that's where I put in my commercial for the Israel trip. There's a QR code on that poster out there. In just a little under a year. Read and engage in study and protest and fight. Donate to the Israeli Movement for Progressive Judaism and other organizations doing this important work on the front lines. Continue to love Israel, care about Israel, and together demand an Israel that comes closer and closer, not only to maintaining existence, but to living out the values demanded of us by Torah and by our tradition. We have not abandoned that hope 2,000 years old. Lihiot am chofshi ba'artzenu, to be a free people in our own land, and that land will be one of justice, mercy, and peace. We have no other homeland. As the song says, Ein lanu eretz acheret. We have no other land. Gam im admatenu bo'eret. Even if our land is burning, kan hu beitenu. Here is our home.
Ein li eretz acheret, gam im admati bo'eret rak, mila בעברית חודרת, אל אורכי, אל נשמתי, בגוף כואב, בלב רעב, כאן הוא ביתי. Let's try that together. אין לי ארץ אחרת, גם אם אדמתי בוערת, רק מילה בעברית חודרת, אל אורכי, אל נשמתי, בגוף כואב, בלב רעב, כאן הוא ביתי. לא אשתוק כי ארצי שינתה את פניה, לא אוותר להזכיר לה, ואשיר כאן באוזניה עד שתפקח את עיניה. אחרת עד שתחדש ימיה, עד שתפקח את עיניה.
It is my great pleasure now to invite forward Jesse Goodsell, representing our board of directors, to share words of welcome and a few announcements with us.
That's a tough act to follow. I'll do my best. Hi, I'm Jesse Goodsell. I use they, them pronouns. I'm on the board. Brand new on the board. This is my first announcements. Thank you so much for the amazing turnout. I assume you're all here for this wonderful Devar
It's
Torah.
for your
but
announcements,
it's for me, and
actually.
that's for my announcements, clearly. We welcome you all here tonight. We've got our adult education classes. So Temple Chi has so many opportunities for learning and being together in community. Upcoming programs include Torah study every Sunday at 10, Pirkei Avot Sundays at 11, Wise Aging monthly on Wednesday afternoons, Introduction to Judaism on Tuesday nights, and Musar on Thursday evenings. See your Echai to register for those. Don't also forget Second Cup discussion with Rabbi Siegel during the last religious school Sunday each month. That's also going to be on the Echai, I believe. During the month of Elul, we reflect on the past year and changes we want to make within ourselves and our lives. This year at Temple Chi, we will be sending a daily email with words to encourage our preparation, inspire deep thinking and inspiration. You have the opportunity to sign up to receive these emails. It's an opt-in. See your Echai to opt in. When you opt into this, you'll learn from your fellow Temple Chi community members. You'll get to know the members of our community better, and you'll gain a deeper understanding of the period of reflection leading up to the high holidays. Beat the heat. We will be meeting here next Shabbat, and if you want to get out of the heat, also in Flagstaff on Friday, August 4th at 6 p.m. for Shabbat services, or in Munns Park Saturday, August 5th at 6 p.m. for Havdalah. See your Echai to register. The theme is that you should be signed up for the Echai if you're not already. Yeah, if you're not sure how to do that, there's a sign-up sheet out there. Travel to Israel with Rabbis Emily and Scott Siegel and your Temple Chi friends. Sign-ups are ongoing for our Temple Israel trip happening in late May, early June of 2024. This trip will be wonderful for both first-timers and those who have traveled to Israel before. Please note that the trip will be wonderful for adults and teens, but is not targeted for children. If you have questions about the trip or want to find out more, use the QR code on the poster in the lobby or ask either Rabbi Siegel. Board members are identified by our name badges. We have these special little rectangle badges here. After services conclude, you can find us at the back of the sanctuary. Please come on up, introduce yourselves, and get to know us. Thank you very much.
We return to our prayer books for our concluding prayers. Aleinu can be found on page 38. Page 38, and I invite you to rise as you are able.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יחיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
You may be seated. We think now of all those we have loved and lost, friends, family, members of our congregational community for whom we are in a period of mourning or observing a yahrzeit. If you've joined us streaming online, please share the names of those you are remembering in the chat or in the comments so we can hold them close in our hearts with our own. As a congregational community, we remember those who died in recent days: Elena Wolfson, Dwayne Barnes, and Larry Eisenhart. If you are here this evening observing Yahrzeit in a period of mourning or simply remembering someone at this time whose name you would like to share, I invite you to rise as you are able to share those names with us. Did I miss anyone? Zichronam livracha, may all their memories be for a blessing. As together we continue with Mourner's Kaddish on page 40, and we rise as one community in support of all those in mourning and remembering. Yit gadal v'yit kadash shemei rabbah, bi'alma divrach yurtei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayachon uv'yomechon, uv'chaye d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'gala uv'izman kari v'imru amen. Yehe shmei rabba mavarach le'alam u'lalmei almaya, yit barach v'yishtabach v'yit pa'ar v'yit romam v'yit naseh, v'yit hadar v'yit ale v'yit halal shemei d'kudasha brichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechemata, damiran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom mimurav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved, as again we say, amen. We remain standing now together as we continue with the sweetness of Kiddush wine for Shabbat. I would love to invite forward Michelle White to lead us in Kiddush, page 41.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratza banu, v'shabbat kodsho, v'ahava uvratzon.